Well, it would seem as if the progressive media is back at it again with their standard, completely partisan and hypocritical talking points. You see, just yesterday, one such member of the progressive media establishment, while interviewing Ron DeSantis, attempted to pin Governor DeSantis against President Donald Trump by asserting that Trump's public criticisms of Governor Gavin Newsom of the great state of California are inappropriate. But here's the thing, Governor DeSantis wasn't having it. Take a look at this.
Elect or a president to be criticizing.
Is it appropriate for people in your industry to try to create division and to try to create narratives anytime these things happen? Now, you're not as interested in doing that because Newsom is a D. If Newsom was a Republican, you guys would go you would have him nailed to the wall for what they're doing over there. And I know we've dealt with it. We just assume in Florida, anytime something happens, it's going to be politicized by the media. So you guys sitting in judgment of Donald Trump, I mean, excuse me, I think your track record of politicizing these things is very, very bad.
Wow. He just absolutely cooked. In fact, everything that Governor DeSantis just said should be studied as a masterclass on how to deal with the shameless progressive media, because everything he just said is 100% true. The progressive media apparatus, or as I personally like to call it, the progressive propaganda apparatus, is absolutely shameless with how they handle situations like this. They have 100% charitability for anyone on their own side of the aisle while having nothing but scorn for anyone that doesn't share their crazy progressive beliefs. And of course, this is painfully obvious right now of all times, as we're all sitting here watching Governor Gavin Newsom just helplessly flail as he struggles to handle the ongoing forest fire situations in California. Because as that's happening, what does the progressive media have to say about it? Well, guess what? They're playing coverage for him. They're blaming climate change, they're blaming Republican legislation, they're blaming Donald Trump, whatever, anything they can do to obfuscate from the fact that this entire situation has been caused by incompetent progressive leadership. That's literally it. And guess what? Anyone with half a brain knows it. Now, real quick, guys, you know what doesn't take half a brain? Subscribing to this channel if you enjoy the videos. We all know that sometimes weird algorithmic things can happen to conservative commentary channels, so hey, I need all the help I can get. But so here's the thing. The progressive media knows that they don't exactly have a strong position, so what do? They go on the attack. They start blaming President Trump for criticizing Governor Newsom, ignoring the fact that Newsom is one of this country's most incompetent leaders of all time. But hey, it wasn't nice that Trump called for Newsom's resignation. It just wasn't presidential. Yeah? Well, is it gubernatorial to let your entire state burn down to the ground? Because that's what Newsom is doing right now. But hey, they don't want to talk about that, do they? And you know why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative that progressives are just so much more competent. They're so much more sophisticated, highly educated. Not like those stupid conservatives. They're just a bunch of cavemen, pretty much. They can't do anything right. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not exactly sure that that's the case. In fact, I'm beginning to think that it's actually the exact opposite. And so hey, here's the thing. Out of all of the governors in the US, we've got 50 of them, Governor DeSantis is the very last one they should be trying this stuff with. Because Governor DeSantis down in Florida has experienced his own share of natural disasters, the difference being he properly handled them, but still the progressive media tried to crucify him anyway. Take a look at this.
Last question. Newsom should resign and that the wildfires are all his fault. So do you agree with those comments?
I remember when we had the Surfside Tower collapse, I had people from the Washington Post trying to blame me for it immediately without having any facts.
And so he's been through all of this before, and he knows exactly how the progressive media tries to manipulate situations like this. They're very quick with this rhetorical sleight of hand, playing coverage for their own side while simultaneously attacking the other side. A term I love to use is cry-bully. They're claiming to be the victim, look at how mean Donald Trump is, while simultaneously instigating everything and punching you in the face. And so when you actually start to think about this stuff, it's kind of hard to understand just how these progressives were able to gaslight the entire country for as long as they did. How did people ever fall for this stuff? But you know what? Governor DeSantis wasn't done cooking yet, and what he had to say next is absolutely crazy. Check this out.
When I got elected governor, I was meeting with some of the other Republican governors, and what they would say is, hey, if you have a natural disaster, just know media's coming at you, they're going to do it. It's not the same That mayor of LA, if that were a Republican mayor, I could only imagine what that would do. I mean, you know the fires are at high risk and you try to go to Africa or wherever she was to go on some type of voyage. You should have been there preparing and doing that, and yet I don't see a lot of heat being directed in that thing. And so, I'd like to see some balance on how this is done. You could criticize the president-elect, but I think you also have to hold these other people accountable, and I have not seen that.
And so this right here is why the mainstream media is dying, because everything Governor DeSantis just said is 100% true. With these mainstream media propagandists, it's always rules for thee, but not for me. We're going to hyperfixate on the wrongdoings of the evil conservatives, but we're going to turn a blind eye to the failures of the left. And at this point, I think we all know the left fails a whole lot more than the right. Like, seriously, take a look at this. As Los Angeles was burning with the fire being controlled at a rate of 0%, we started seeing articles like this pop up. Amid Palisades fire, Los Angeles' first LGBTQ+ fire chief is proving lesbians get it done. Get what done? Relax as some of the most expensive property in the US gets torched? Estimates right now say that $55 billion worth of damage has been done. People have lost their lives, and as that's happening, the progressive media decided to publish a puff piece talking about how great this lesbian LGBTQ+ whatever fire chief is doing. In reality, this person should be thrown into a prison cell for catastrophically failing to protect the people that she's sworn to protect. Because in case anyone here forgot, the job of a fire chief is to stop fires, not be an LGBTQ+ activist. But hey, to these insane progressives, all that matters is pushing the agenda, even if it means that society ends up burning to a crisp, literally. To these people, there's no price too great to pay at the altar of progressivism. And so in all honesty, this sort of progressive rhetoric attempting to hold conservatives to a standard that they themselves very hypocritically don't even hold themselves to is probably a sort of defense mechanism. Because they know that if people were to start talking about the never-ending failures of the left, and by the way, the failures pretty much are never-ending, then they'd be done. They would be toast. They would never win another election again. So really, they're doing the only thing that they can do, which is to hypocritically lash out and hope that no one notices. But here's the problem. We all notice. It doesn't work anymore, and the country is beginning to reject progressivism. But hey, I think that's all I have for you guys today. Maybe at some point, if these progressive media propagandists get called out and ridiculed enough, they'll finally stop behaving like this, because it's actually embarrassing and frankly, insulting to anyone that has a functioning brain. So with this one, guys, I want to know what you have to say about it. Please go down below and drop a comment. Please like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe. Like I said earlier, it's huge and it really does help a lot. Thank all of you guys very much for watching. And as always, stay safe.